It is 2:37, and I'm calling this meeting of the subcommittee, the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee to order. I don't believe we have anyone from the public here. So I was thinking we could just start with introductions because Mr. Pavey, I don't think he knows all of us. I'll go first. I'm Lauren Blois. I'm a junior, and I'm the vice chair of the youth council. Alyssa, do you want to go?
Okay. Hi, I'm Alyssa Toppy. I'm a senior, and I'm usually act as the chair of the subcommittee.
Ali, do you want to go?
Hello, so I am Ali Atwi and I'm in 8th grade and I am a non-voting member of the Youth Council.
All right, Anthony.
Hello, my name is Anthony Matucci. I am a senior. I'm also a non-voting member, but also the secretary of the Youth Council.
Catherine, would you like to go? Even though I'm sure you guys know each other.
Catherine Dingra, the advisor to the Youth Council.
Awesome. And I think I know most of you guys. Ali, I don't think I've met you formally. Seen Anthony around. I know Lauren, obviously, and Alyssa I had back in 7th grade, I think, right? So I'm Jason Pavey. I'm a 5 through 12 history curriculum coordinator, former teacher at the Galvin, history teacher, 7th grade, but also the girls basketball coach at the high school.
Awesome. So for this meeting, I was thinking we could discuss with Mr. Pavey kind of our process of providing our recommendation to the school committee about changing the logo.
Yep.
And then provide or kind of discuss further ideas for some more education that we can maybe do in school or outside of school around the history of Indigenous people and how using them as, kind of characters in a way is harmful to their culture. So does anyone want to talk about our process, how we did the logo? I can do it if no one wants to.
I can
Right.
if you. So basically, we did a lot of surveying and polling the youth of Wakefield. We did polls on like our Instagrams, and we DM'd people to like ask follow-up, ask their opinions on how they voted and things like that. And then Lauren put together a larger survey to kind of get together if people thought the name should be changed, the logo, or both, and like where they were in the school system, so we could see who had like what opinions and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you. So then after that, we presented that information to the full youth council. And we had a lot of discussions, and we took a lot of time to kind of self-educate about the logo so we could form our own opinions before we voted as a council of what our recommendation would be. So we voted 7-1 of recommending to the school committee that the logo would be changed. And then I believe it was in October, November, myself, middle schooler Jenna Farber, we are both liaisons to the school committee, and our chair, Jack Dubois. The three of us presented a presentation that I believe I sent to you, Mr. Pavey,
Yep.
To the school committee, and they kind of asked us questions, and we had a really good and educational and informative discussion about it. So Anthony or Ali, do you guys want to talk about the press release and kind of the reactions with that?
Yeah, I can start. So we once we made that decision, we released sort of a press release, sort of just summarizing, as Alyssa said, the research we put into the decision, the process that was taken for the decision, and why the decision was made. I mostly deal with like the newsletter communications aspect of youth council. So I don't control the Instagram or Facebook pages, but from what Alyssa and Lauren told me and what they've shown me, the response wasn't exactly all too positive. Most people who commented on the press release were sort of I feel like a lot of people were in a way confused about like who the youth council was and like how they like I think they almost immediately assumed like, oh, like a decision's already been made, even though like that was just our decision to propose that to the school committee. And once even that the school committee decide, even if they were to decide to go through with that, there's a bunch of other procedures that are necessary. So I think a lot of people just reacted emotionally, thinking that like the decision was already immediately made. And so I would say it wasn't too much of a warm and positive response on social media.
Thank you. Yeah, and we kind of knew or anticipated that happening, just where it is a sensitive topic and a lot of people have some pretty strong opinions, rightfully so, about it, just where it's a huge part of our town and our school community. Um, but I mean, personally, I was a little bit surprised with those reactions, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I'm very much for that. And that's kind of what our council is about, is weighing in on those opinions and kind of making sure everyone is heard. So that was kind of our process. And right now, the school committee, obviously, and I'm glad that they're focusing a lot on COVID, just as cases are climbing and, you know, a lot more is kind of happening that they have to deal with. So this is kind of at a standstill, which is why we thought it would be a really good time to talk about some further education ideas. So
Can I just say one thing, Lauren,
yeah,
too? And one thing that was really impressed with everyone on the youth council is that when this first topic came up, I think that some people were like, I don't really know. I don't think it's that big of a deal that we have this logo. And through education, a lot of people. So that's why they thought that was one of the reasons they wanted to reach out to you, Mr. Pape, is that they really thought that education was a key in influencing people's behavior or opinions on this, because you guys just did an excellent job educating yourselves. And then they thought, okay, well, then how can we communicate this to our peers? So that was the big changing point.
thank you, Catherine. So yeah, that's kind of why we wanted to reach out to you, is just to kind of have an open discussion about things we can do. We're not sure if it would be appropriate to kind of incorporate it into school. We had thought about maybe doing an after school forum at the high school and the middle school, just where we would be there and open to talk about it. So do you have any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I can kind of like maybe update you, because I feel like we're kind of in like in parallel lanes here, as far as like we're doing some work in like this lane and you guys are doing work in another lane. If there's a way to kind of merge it. So from like just like an athletic point of view, because I feel like that's where a lot of the backlash is probably coming from. It's like sports teams, right? And the logo on helmets and, you know, sweatshirts and stuff like that. And most of the time it's associated with athletic teams. I got no, because basketball is a winter sport. So we obviously we started a little bit later than we normally would. It would typically be after Thanksgiving, but we picked up like right before Christmas break or winter break. And one of the emails that we got from Mr. Kent, who's our athletic director, was they've adopted a new logo. So the basic, I don't think I can share it with you. It's pretty like, it's kind of like generic. It's just it's the same colors. It's basically just, instead of obviously the mascot head, it just says, it's like a W. It just says Warriors on it. If you're familiar with, if you want to have an idea of what it looks like, the best thing to do is Google image Ohio State, because we have the same colors as Ohio State. It's like instead of the O, it's a W, and it says Ohio State, ours says Warriors. So that's kind of what we're going to be using now. And so kind of the messaging that we've gotten from Mr. Kent was, you know, in the future, when you order gear, hoodies, whatever, t-shirts for your team, could you please tell the company to use this image instead? So I think moving forward, you're gonna see more of that logo, because at the on the other end, they're also not telling. There's no plan to like turn in all of your old Wakefield Warrior gear or do stuff like that. Or on the other hand, I don't know. I know it's been brought up before. I think obviously money plays a huge part in it as far as like, for our basketball court, that mascot logo is like, boom, that's at center court. But that's like tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do that over, and probably the same for Landrigan. But I think it's a step in the right direction in that they're saying that they're pausing using the Warrior logo, and they're going to really encourage coaches to use this now. So I don't know how much information has been disseminated to the public, because coaches are like a small percentage of the people who would order and buy that stuff. It's up to like, well, what do you do like as a parent who might want to purchase something for a birthday gift or whatever? Like, how do we make the public aware that that's kind of, at least at the high school, the coaches are on board, and all the it's like, if all the athletic programs are on board and all the coaches are on board, how do we make sure that you can still purchase materials like outside of the program and make sure that you're using the correct logo? Because if I'm a parent, I could say, yeah, I want to order my two kids a Wakefield Warrior hoodie. You send it to whatever the shop is, and you send them the old Warrior logo. It would still be in circulation. So I think the next step might be talking to places like the T-Stop, right? I think that's kind of like the number one place around Wakefield where you would go, or I don't know where else kids go or where people would go. But I think one that's kind of an update on my end, that we're not using that anymore going in the future.
Yeah, that's great to hear on our end as well. I personally wasn't aware of that, and I'm very pleased to hear that. And we also weren't anticipating that it would be a huge, like, throw all of your Warrior stuff out with the logo. We kind of knew that that there would be a phased approach to it. So that's great that it's been pretty.
I can actually read you the email that I got. It just says, this was back in, actually right before, like right around the beginning of December. It says, in recent weeks, some of you have reached out about team gear and the use of the Warrior head logo. If you are not aware, Wakefield High School has begun to transition away from this logo because of the ever-changing climate in sports. We've already seen many schools, colleges, and even pro teams remove mascots and nicknames in the past year. With that being said, we're fortunate to have some graphic design connections, and the athletic department has approved of a new logo that we're proud to share. We understand that the old logo is still visible on many of our uniforms, fields, and past team gear, and right now it would be expensive to replace everything. Although we're not banning the Warrior head, we are strongly encouraging coaches to use this new logo going forward for team gear, social media accounts, uniforms, etc., and phase out the old logo. That's kind of the term they're using, is to kind of phase it out. So,
Yeah, that's great.
Lauren and Anthony, do you know if the music program is also doing this?
Yeah, Anthony, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I would say generally the marching band and music department as a whole is kind of going definitely in the same direction. Where, I mean, I'm wearing, this is from sophomore year. This only has the W. I think this is the first year that they stopped using the Warrior logo, and that was 2 years ago. So they've been sort of on this track as well. And this year specifically, we had some fleeces for every member of the band, and the design, we made sure that, like, specifically this year, that it did not have the Warrior head. So I definitely, for sure, the marching band is in the same direction where we're phasing out this the logo.
Yeah, so I believe it was last year. So under our uniforms, we wear white pride shirts, and on the front and on the back, we used to have the Warrior head, and that was changed just to a W. So I think we're really lucky that that started pretty early, and now we have the sports teams kind of all transitioning at the same time, which is really nice, because that will kind of set the path for more groups to do that as well. Mr. Pavey,
yeah, that's an exciting update for tomorrow's meeting that you guys can share.
Yeah, I think
that's huge.
Here. So I know that a lot of the talk about the logo is kind of focused towards the high school, just because we have a lot of teams and, varsity, JV, freshmen. But I'm wondering if there's anything for Galvin that there's an update on with, maybe travel teams, or if it's the same thing, or if there hasn't really been any talk
Yeah,
about
so
that.
I haven't heard anything from that. I know like officially the Galvin doesn't use the Warrior logo. Like they're called the Galvin Generals at the middle school and because of General Galvin. And that's kind of like, I don't even know if there's actually a logo that goes with that. I think it's just like
Yeah, there is.
Is there? Is it like the general from like the insurance company? That's all I can.
It kind of is this red thing. I just know because I was
Yeah.
just looking at it on our news flush.
So
Somebody like drew it a few years ago.
I think that's kind of the part that we need to, or not we, like I'm on the committee or something, but like, how do we get, it's one thing, I think having the high school kind of transition is a huge like change, but how do you get into these smaller pockets of, like you said, a travel team, a WBA team, which aren't really affiliated with the school, but would still use the Warrior logo, because, you know what I mean? So I don't know how to, it really comes down to like the contacts, like who's in charge of travel teams, like whatever, Little League or like youth soccer. Like it's kind of like, how do we get to these smaller groups and make them aware that the change is happening at the high school? Because I think like the good part is once they hear that the changes happen at the high school, I think it will have like that trickle down effect. Like that's not what we're doing anymore, right? It's easy to just fall in line with like what the quote like big kids are doing, right? So, that it's cool to like follow what the high school is doing. So I think that comes down to like just finding out who the correct contacts are. And I know, like I just know like from the administration at the Galvin, they would fully support it. It's just that they already went that route and changed their name to the Generals. I think when the new school came in.
Do you know who I could set up a meeting with is our rec director, Dan McGrath. A lot of times permits all the fields and the spaces for everyone to use. So he could be that person that connects you to I know just from my kids' sports, who's the soccer person, who's the Little League person, but
Sure.
it'd be good to bring Dan in on the conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah. And also just kind of building off what you said, Mr. Pavey, I think when this does kind of get to the point where it will hopefully get on like a school committee agenda and be the main focus at some point when COVID like dies down, I think it will end up involving a lot of people just like outside of the high school, especially through public comments and things like that. Like there's, at least from what I've seen with what we did, I think there's going to be involvement from other people. So I feel like it won't just be a high school, but I do definitely think what you were saying about like the kind of trickle down thing, I think that's definitely something that's possible.
I also wonder, like, it's kind of weird, like this whole like Native American logo, it seems like it's isolated to like this region, like Saugus, Winchester, Melrose. You don't really hear about it too much. Like there's like 128 belt or whatever. I would be curious if like how have other towns been able to make that transition? Because I feel like we're one of the last to do it, other than like if you drive on Route 1, the huge like new Saugus High School has the huge Native American mascot head on it down on Route 1. But like I know Winchester changed. I know Melrose changed. I think they used to be the Red Raiders. Watertown used to be the Red Raiders. I think they're now just the Raiders. And again, they kind of just took like the letter, the M or the W. But I don't know how I'd be curious to see how they were able to kind of get the messaging out, one to like the youth programs, but also kind of like what's their version of like the T-stop, like what's their version of like local stores that, and I think it would be, another like that company maybe checking in with them, because everything we get is from the T-stop, like everything.
Does the athletics department order through the T-stop, Mr. Pavey?
So I don't know. It really depends on what you're asking the ordering for. Like if it's for like brand, if it's for like game uniforms, which at least on the back, like I know for basketball, like there is no logo on it, just says Wakefield or Warriors. We don't go through the T-stop for that. That's like it depends. We kind of get some quotes from different like companies that are probably not even in Massachusetts, but I know for like traditionally, like for like banquets, senior gifts, like that's usually like the parent boosters club, and like the go-to has always been to go to the T-stop. So
Yeah. So Lauren, maybe you all could talk to, Mr. Kent, to see, even though the school doesn't, he does have some leverage there on strategies to, Mr. Faulkner, who runs the T-Stop, is awesome. I was just in there chatting with him, getting my kids some Christmas stuff, which then I pulled out and I was like, oh no, it has the logo on it. So we can brainstorm next steps on that piece.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. So I'm very glad to hear that, at least in the sports aspect, it's kind of in the music as well. It's kind of being phased out. So I'm wondering so before we kind of talked about how education was a huge part in our group of forming our opinions and kind of being more aware of the history of these kinds of logos, not just locally, but like the true history that, we might not always learn about Indigenous people and what they faced. So I'm wondering if, since it's already kind of being transitioned out, if we still want to proceed with trying to educate people through school or curriculum or an after school thing, and kind of what your thoughts are on that.
I kind of have another, I guess this is a good update for you guys as well, is that I took on a class this year with Miss Messier, who's our ELA curriculum coordinator. She's brand new to the district. She's awesome, but we co-teach the formerly known as like the diversity leaders class. So we kind of revamped it, and it's like every day we're talking about equity, inclusion, and diversity. It's like you just watch the news and it like leads to these conversations, right? But one of the things that we did back in November, which was Native Indigenous Peoples Month, was we had the kids and the diversity leaders. Well, I'll just call it the diversity leaders for now. Those kids actually created workshops on Native American history. And I think I just sent you the link so you could kind of see like the agenda of what we kind of worked on in November. But we worked with Miss Ho in the library. And I know she kind of was going to put it out there, or I think the goal really is to have our students in that class create these workshops and resources, and then kind of gradually start to like embed them into like more core classes like US1, US2, so more kids can kind of be exposed to it. So we couple of the things that we talked about, we did a whole thing on the warrior tradition, and what we did the history of the warrior mascot. We did stuff like that. We read some Howard Zinn, People's History of the United States, on Columbus's experiences and what he wrote in his journal about the Native Americans. So kind of like the update from a curriculum standpoint is that we just got approved. So right now the diversity, it's like 8 kids. And it's like this class that's like down in the basement that no one knows about. But we just got approved for next year for it to be 2 full sections, which now, and there's no interview. I know before you had to be like an interview and like one of the chosen few. So now it's going to be next year, any junior or senior who wants to take it. So that's going to be about 50, that could be up to like 50 kids. And we would be covering, we already have, so that's the thing. What we're doing now is kind of like making the workshops, we're kind of like making the materials with the seniors now. So next year we kind of have like this ready to go curriculum. And then obviously when things happen in the news, we talk about that as well. But we kind of have like this whole month of November dedicated to Native and Indigenous people's history, at least and so we're kind of expanding it. So next year hopefully it's 50 kids. And then my job as like a history teacher is, even if you're not one of those 50, how do we get it into like just regular old US1, US2? Because that's one of our goals from an ELA social studies standpoint, is incorporating more just diverse topics, whether it's I know in English they're incorporating some stuff, not necessarily about Native people, but just people of color. So next year we're going to hopefully see more kids be able to take that course, and then the year after maybe open it up to another section and train another teacher, or hire another teacher to teach that class. So change is slow, but I feel like we're kind of moving in the right direction with that. So I think you guys have access to, you can kind of see some of the stuff that we did. And if you want to kind of really see the work that the students did, maybe just reach out to Ms. Ho, because she has it all in her little, I don't know how she put it on social media, but she had it out there.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's honestly like what we kind of wanted to hear. And I think that our members, and obviously we'd have to check in with the diversity leaders, but maybe we could form a collaboration. And I know that they did a lot of the legwork, and we wouldn't want to take that away from them, but it might be a good opportunity for us to kind of work together. And
I think that's the part, right? I think the thing that I struggle with is like, it's real easy, because we talk about like racism and we talk about bias and stuff like that. It's real easy to talk about that with kids who aren't racist because they're
self-selecting to be in that class. So
right. But how do you get the message to a kid who might not necessarily be aware of their bias or be aware of or what they say or what they think? So how do we get, it's kind of like, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, right? How do we get all of us people who are thinking alike how do we get that message out to more people? So I think combining like these two groups is a start. I think there's like strength in numbers, but then it's kind of like, well, how do we get it to like the regular average kid in Wakefield who's like, has no idea that this is even going on, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And maybe that can, at one of our next subcommittee meetings, we can kind of talk about those next steps that we want to take towards combining our forces and doing more work.
Honestly, the last thing I'll say about it is at the high school, you have an administration being led by Miss McLeod. And honestly, I work a lot with Mr. Lyons as well. Like, they're all about it. Like, it's just like, tell us what you need. Like, how do we do this? Like, what, so I feel like the answer is going to be yes. Like, what do you want it? Yes. All right. How do you want it? Yeah. Like, they're all about, like, they've been really supportive to me in the work that we're trying to do. And I just feel like you're going to have the support from them, because I know, like, sometimes as like a kid, it's hard. It's like, you just need to be like, you just need to know who to contact, right? And sometimes when you're a student, it might be hard. You kind of need like the adults support to kind of get you into the room, right? So I would also like go to Principal McLeod, go to Mr. Lyons, and I feel like they would be 100% on board with trying to help get these messages out there.
Definitely. I think in Wakefield in particular, like, we have amazing administration at all the schools. I know Mr. Colantoni's great, Mrs. McLeod's great. So my next question, I know we might have to wrap up. Oh no, never mind. It's only 3 or 4. My next question is, at the middle school, do we know, Ali, if there's still the peer leader program happening?
I do not know if the peer leader program is still going on. I'm a full remote student, so I wouldn't really know if that was going on. But
Okay.
I have not received any emails about that.
I don't think it is, because usually that's Miss Hart and Mr. Cedrone, and they do the ADL training and stuff.
Right.
Did some of you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
I
I think it stopped a couple years ago, like maybe the year after you left, Lauren. 'Cause, like,
Okay.
when Mr. Kelly left, it kind of like slowed down.
Yeah.
I
So
just remember like him leaving.
yeah, even
And
if
then-
that's not happening, I know that, and Ali, I know that you're fully remote, so, there might be some different perspectives that we have to kind of dig through. But I know that they're the eye care classes, I believe, that everyone has. So, since there aren't peer leaders who, maybe they can't teach a lesson or do a workshop on the logo and kind of similar things to what people are at the high school are doing, but maybe we can try to figure out how to incorporate these workshops that we're doing at the high school into those care classes.
We're actually, the diversity students are actually we're zooming into the eye care classes starting next week. So I know at the Galvin, the administrators actually teach a couple sections of it. So I'm at, like, our kids, the seniors, are actually going into Mr. Colantoni's eye care class. And we're going to go into Mr. Tetrald's eye care class. We're going to schedule it. So if you guys ever were interested, I would definitely reach out to Mr. Colantoni, Mr. Tetrall, and our new AP, it's her second year, is Miss Hammer, and just say, hey, I heard that you, they'll definitely want, they're asking people to come in. And I think sometimes that's the disconnect, is I think Mr. Colantoni only knows about the diversity leaders and what's going on because I like talk to him, right? He might not really know enough about your group to think like, oh, that would be a really good resource. Because I think it's a really strong activity to anytime you can get older kids talking to younger kids and about their experiences, especially with whatever theme they're talking about. So our kids are going into they're reading a book on acceptance. They're reading, I forget the name of the book, but it's a student who has a learning disability. It's about acceptance, but our diversity kids can go in and talk about, whether it's gender, race, or whatever, like it's acceptance is acceptance, right? So I would reach out to them and say, hey, like introduce you, hey, this is the group we're in, and we're more than willing to kind of do a workshop similar to what the diversity kids are doing or whatever. But they're like totally asking for high school kids to come in and teach a class or teach a lesson.
That's a great opportunity, because you guys, a lot of you are off a couple of days, then that might work for your schedules too. But even that PowerPoint you put together for the school committee, if you could take some of those things and then make them interactive, that could be, I have a 6th grader and a 7th grader, and I could see them really, that's the perfect age to kind of educate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that what like a pretty good strength that our group has is that we do have middle school members, and there is, like you were saying, there is a lot of power about older and younger kids, but I also think that we're kind of in a unique position where we have peers really close to the age that we're kind of targeting this towards. So maybe, if our council can, or some of our members can go in and talk to the eye care classes, it can be a mix of middle schoolers and high schoolers. I know that might be, it might be a little bit intimidating for the middle schoolers, just, that might be a little awkward. So we can obviously, adjust it to people's comfort levels, but that might be something for us to think about as well. Does anyone have anything else to add? All right, so that was a great discussion. I'm very glad that we did this. I think I got a lot of insight and a lot of information that I wasn't aware of. And I think that tomorrow at our larger council meeting, that a lot of people are gonna feel the same way that I do, and I'm sure you guys are feeling as well. So our next item on the agenda is other matters not reasonably anticipated. So does anyone else have anything to add? We all good? All right. So Mr. Pavey, thank you very much for coming. It is 3:10 and I am adjourning the meeting. Do I have a motion to do that?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All right. We have to do the roll call. So myself, yes. Alyssa?
Yes.
Ali? Anthony?
Yes.
All right. It is 3:10. The meeting has been adjourned. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Mr. Pavey. We really appreciate it.
Be in touch.
We'll be in touch.
Let me know what you guys need moving forward or whatever. And again, even like maybe there's a way like our two classes or groups could even like link up and kind of talk, because like I said earlier, I think we're in parallel lanes here. So yeah, be in touch for sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Keep up the good work. I'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.